I still remember the moment my sister Claire stepped onto the stage at the Riverside Innovation Summit with that patented confidence of hers, soft-spoken, almost shy, yet somehow utterly magnetic. She adjusted the lapel mic, took a breath, and looked out over the 100 or so investors, journalists, and fellow inventors seated before her. Her hands trembled just a fraction as she began. Good afternoon. I'm Claire Thompson, and I'd like to introduce you to the future of urban farming, the AeroBloom hydropod. A hush fell over the room. I sat off to the side, next to our best friend Maya, feeling my heart pound in my throat. For the past 2 years, Claire had poured her savings and her spirit into this invention, a self-contained aeroponic plant pod that watched moisture levels, adjusted nutrient sprays, and even used AI to recommend the perfect light spectrum for each plant species. She'd prototyped it in our parents' garage, code crawling through long nights, interviewing horticulturalists, and debugging sensors. I'd helped her sculpt presentation slides, but everything you'd see on that stage, the gleaming white pod, the color-changing LED halo, the promise of bringing green to concrete jungles, was hers. We've all seen rooftop gardens and community plots, she continued, voice steadier now, as a soft spotlight illuminated the sleek cylinder beside her. But they're limited by space, pests, and unpredictable weather. AeroBloom changes the game. It uses 95% less water than traditional soil gardening, reduces fertilizer runoff to near zero, and can grow up to 12 different herbs and vegetables in a 6-square-foot footprint. The investors leaned forward. I clicked through the slide deck with her, a graph showing water usage over time, another depicting expected yield boost, even a short video of basil leaves unfurling inside a hydropod prototype in our Brooklyn basement. When she paused, waiting for the transition, everyone's eyes were on that single device, perched like a modern art piece. As you can see, she said, we've successfully tested these units in 3 pilot sites, a Manhattan co-op, a Detroit urban farm, and a rooftop cafe in San Diego. Our customers reported a 40% increase in yield and a 30% reduction in operational costs within 3 months. Today, I'm seeking $2 million in seed funding to scale manufacturing, enhance our AI algorithms, and expand sales to 10 new cities by next spring. Polite applause broke out. I released a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Maya leaned over and whispered, "You're killing it, Em. She's killing it." I smiled, eyes still on Claire. She beamed. That beam was her reward, the glow of doing something she truly believed in. After the presentation, investors lined up by the stage, business cards and iPads at the ready. One lean man with silver hair and a sharp navy suit introduced himself. I'm Robert Kim from Evergreen Capital. Claire, your demonstration was impeccable. I have a few questions about your supply chain projections. She dove into details, sourcing ABS resin, contracting with a plant nursery in New Jersey for seedlings, patent timelines. I watched her handle every question like a pro, her nerdy excitement shining through. Maya tapped me on the shoulder. We might actually do this. We celebrated that evening at a rooftop bar, sipping mojitos and texting all our friends. Claire was buoyant, her laughter tinkling above the city's hum. I noticed a bit of pink on her cheeks, her first real investor meeting, and by all accounts, it had gone brilliantly. But 2 nights later, the surprise arrived. I was sprawled on my couch, binging a documentary on sustainable architecture, when my phone pinged with an email from the US Patent and Trademark Office. My heart skipped. I knew Claire had filed provisional patents and was waiting on the full utility patent to issue. I texted her, got a letter from USPTO. Did you see? No reply. I opened the PDF, official letterhead, a reference number, date, and then the bombshell. Decision on non-final office action, rejection of patent application, number 1689234. Claimed invention, a self-contained aeroponic plant growth system, utilizing AI to optimize environmental parameters. Grounds prior art. U.S. Patent Number 9,876,543, Smith et al., 2018. Comments: the above identified prior art discloses all elements of the claimed invention, including integrated environmental sensors, automated nutrient delivery, and user-configurable lighting spectrums. As such, the current claims are unpatentable. I stared at those words, stomach nodding. Smith et al. I'd never encountered that patent. How could something so similar exist? Claire burst into my apartment, seconds later, cheeks flushed, eyes wide. Did you read it? She asked, snatching the printout. They rejected it. I explained what I'd read. Her face crumpled. But I did a patent search. I swear I did. There was nothing like this. She paced, hands in her hair. What do they mean, all elements? I designed the sensor integration from scratch. The algorithm's mine. Everything is proprietary. I slumped onto the couch next to her. Maybe the examiner thinks your claims are too broad. I tried to sound reassuring. You can amend the claims to focus on your specific innovations, the dynamic LED halo, your AI feedback loop, or the modular pod design. She shook her head. If I narrow it, they'll invalidate the core system. I need all of it protected. Without that patent, I can't guarantee exclusivity to investors. They'll walk away. My mind raced. We'd spent weeks polishing the patent application. I'd paid a freelance patent agent to double-check the search. How had we missed prior art? The next morning, I accompanied Claire to the patent office in Alexandria, Virginia. The old sandstone building loomed under a crisp winter sky. Inside, we checked in and waited in a stark lobby, tapping our feet, hearts pounding. When our name was called, we followed a stern clerk down a hallway to examining Div. 2100. Examiner Lynn, mid-30s, hair in a bun, glasses perched on her nose, greeted us. She skimmed her notes. Miss Thompson, Mr. Carter, she said, glancing at my ID. Thank you for coming. I understand you have questions regarding the rejection. Claire nodded, voice barely above a whisper. We'd like to understand exactly which elements map to patent 9,876,543. Examiner Lynn pulled up the referenced patent on her monitor. Smith's device, see here. You have sensors for temperature, humidity, and nutrient concentration. You claim the same. Here, the automated nutrient delivery graph matches the claim chart. And the lighting spectrum adjustment is broadly described. We built our algorithm from ground up, Claire said. I read Smith's patent. It describes a HVAC system for greenhouses, not a desktop aeroponic unit. Lynn adjusted her glasses. It's described as a compact plant growth apparatus. Look at Claim 7, an enclosure housing a plurality of sensors and light modules, wherein a controller adjusts environmental parameters based on sensor feedback. That's essentially your system. I interjected. But our feedback loop uses machine learning to optimize for individual plant species. Their control loop is fixed threshold logic. Lynn paused, then nodded. True. That is a difference, but the broad system claim covers any automated adjustment based on sensor input. To patent your ML advancement, you'd need a claim specifically limited to a learning-based controller architecture. Claire's shoulders sagged. So I have to rewrite and narrow it to cover only the algorithmic approach. Yes, Lynn said. If you want to preserve a strong patent, focus on the novelty, the neural network decision model, and the specific hierarchy of environmental variables. Delete the generic claims that Smith already owns. Claire exhaled. Okay, but that means rewriting claims, paying fees, delaying by months. Her voice cracked. Investors will pull out. Lynn's lips quirked. A narrow patent is better than none. You'll secure protection for your innovation. Then you can negotiate with investors on the strength of that patent. We left the office in silence, the cold wind biting our faces. On the drive back to DC, Claire stared out the window, tears trailing down her cheeks. I held her hand. We'll get through this, I said. We can refile. I'll help you draft the new claims. We'll hire a top patent litigator if we have to. But in her sad smile, I saw the doubt. The summit had been her moment, her chance to outshine the competition, to sidestep Meridian's corporate politics and prove herself to the world. Now the patent office had thrown a spanner in her dream. Over the following weeks, Claire and I huddled over legal textbooks and prior patents. We discovered more obscure art, a Japanese patent for a self-contained vegetable culture chamber, with automated misting, and a European patent application for an environment-adaptive LED fixture that tuned light spectrum based on plant reflectance. With each discovery, her spirit dimmed. She'd once dreamed of revolutionizing urban agriculture. Now she feared her idea would end up in a crowded patent landscape, worthless without broad protection. One evening, as we pored over a stack of worn documents in her living room, our mother stepped in, tray of tea in hand. "Girls," she said gently, worry lines creasing her forehead. "You're both working too hard. Maybe this invention is just too complicated. Maybe it's time to let go." Claire looked up, tears in her eyes. "Mom, this is my life's work." I cut in, anger surfacing. "Mom, this is Claire's dream. She's the one who risked everything, quitting her job, moving home, investing her life savings." I glanced at my sister. "Give her a chance." Mom sighed, setting the tray down. "I just don't want to see you both burn out." That night, Claire and I talked until dawn, the tea long cold. We made a pact to persevere, refine the invention, and craft new robust patent claims that highlighted her unique AI controllers and modular pod design, features no prior art touched. We'd hire a patent attorney renowned for winding interferences and drafting laser-focused claims. We'd show the investors not just a device, but a defensible fortress of intellectual property. But somewhere in those hours, I saw the toll, her once sparkling eyes dulled, her laughter rare. I realized that trust in the patent system was fragile and that a single examiner's objection could unravel years of work and hopes. As dawn broke, I leaned over and kissed her forehead. "We'll win this," I whispered. She clutched my hand with unexpected strength. 2 months later, armed with narrowed claims and a legal team led by the formidable Harper and Kim, Claire prepared to refile. We stood outside the USPTO again, that sandstone facade both familiar and foreboding. She carried a thick envelope of amended claims, detailed diagrams, and expert declarations. Examiner Lin recognized us and offered a curt nod. "I'll expedite review," she said. I squeezed Claire's hand. "Thank you," I said. As we walked away, I realized our journey was far from over. The investors who loved the first pitch might have moved on. Aaron might have tried to undercut her with Meridian's resources, but now we had something more than a product. We had each other, and a patent strategy reinforced by our unique innovations. In her final email to investors, Claire wrote, "In light of recent developments, we've refined our intellectual property protection to focus on our proprietary AI control architecture and modular design, ensuring AeroBloom Hydropod remains a singular solution in urban agriculture. We invite you to join us on this journey, secure in the knowledge that our technology is legally safeguarded." And when she clicked send, I watched her take the first real step toward reclaiming her spotlight, knowing that the patent office's surprise had only sharpened her resolve. The weeks after we refiled our patent claims felt like walking a tightrope over a canyon. On one side, there was the promise of revolutionary urban farming, on the other, the yawning void of investor skepticism, manufacturing nightmares, and a patent office that could still say no. We had momentum, trade press buzzing about AeroBloom's exclusive IP, but momentum alone doesn't fill orders or calm jittery boardrooms. One bright Monday morning, our lead investor, Kara Nguyen of Green Tech Ventures, convened a video call. Her background in scaling clean tech startups made her both our greatest supporter and our most formidable critic. "Claire Emma, thank you for joining," she began, her face framed by bookshelves of horticultural texts and a single fern. "I love the vision, and I believe AeroBloom can transform cities. But investors are asking, when will you have a production-ready unit? When can we be on rooftops in Chicago, Berlin, and Singapore simultaneously? We're looking at Q4 2025. Can you guarantee it?" Claire, tethered to her laptop, swallowed. "We were revising our production timeline. We anticipate a pilot in Chicago by September, with full rollout by December." She glanced at me, seeking support. I jumped in. "We've secured a manufacturing partner in New Jersey, Atlas Plastics. They have injection molding capacity, but during our site visit last week, they flagged 2 issues. The pod's curved halo design requires a custom mold, and our sensor array's ASIC production minimums are at a 10,000 unit batch. That's why we adjusted timelines." I held up hands. "No excuses, just transparency. We can meet Q4 deadlines if we fast-track the mold design and confirm the ASIC order by month's end." Kara's brow furrowed. "Custom molds can take 8 weeks, at least, and ASIC yield rates can be unpredictable. If yield is under 80%, you risk component shortages." She tapped her pen thoughtfully. "I need contingency plans. Otherwise, I'm going to hold back on the second tranche." I nodded firmly. "We've a backup sensor supplier in South Korea who can deliver a simplified sensor at 95% of our precision specs with a standard off-the-shelf component. We'll test both in parallel. And I've scheduled an express mold design slot at Atlas for this week, with prototype molds done in 4. I'll fly to Newark tomorrow to finalize it." Claire exhaled. Kira leaned back, steepling her fingers. "All right, show me the finalized pilot plan by Friday, and your commitment on the ASIC order by then. If you can demonstrate we're on track, you'll get the funds." We ended the call and Claire sagged. "That was brutal," she whispered, voice edged with nerves. I squeezed her shoulder. "This is normal. We just map out risks and fillers." We've got this. That afternoon, we headed to Atlas Plastics plant in Elizabeth, New Jersey. The sprawling facility smelled of hot plastic and hydraulic fluid. I'd prepped a folder, design drawings, mold specifications, tolerance charts. The lead engineer, a crusty guy named Frank, ran us through their process. You want it in 4 weeks? That's aggressive, even with our rapid line, he said, wiping oil from his hands. But doable, if you pay the surcharge. I nodded. We'll cover expedited rates. Just outline the process. He led us to a bank of CAD stations. First, we 3D print the mold prototypes to verify your halo curvature, because the LED channel must be consistent for uniform light diffusion. Then we machine cast the final mold from hardened steel. We'll run 3 test shots, check cooling rates, and finalize the runner system. You're in my next slot, but it means a 150% rush fee. Claire's heart pounded. We'll do it, she said. We faxed a twice-signed work order right there. As we left, I glanced at Claire. 1 tick off the board. Feels good? She managed a wan smile. 1 tick. But so much left. Back in the office, we split tasks. I dove into the ASIC supplier negotiations. Thousands of emails back and forth. Yield guarantees. Purchase agreements. Claire focused on sensor firmware tweaks, so that if we had to use the fallback supplier, the AeroBloom controller could adjust on the fly. By the end of the week, the pilot plan for Chicago was locked in 5 pods installed on a Chicago Housing Co-op rooftop by October 1st, pending final molds by mid-September. Friday afternoon, I forwarded the pilot plan and ASIC order confirmations to Kara. She replied, satisfied. Funds will be released Monday. Keep up the good work. Relief washed through me. We were back in business. But the patent office had one more surprise. A week after our meeting with examiner Lin, Claire's inbox pinged with another non-final rejection, this time from the European Patent Office. The Spanish patent examiner cited a small French startup, Green Shelter, whose WO publication had described a modular plant pod with adaptive lighting. The examiner argued our claims overlapped. Claire burst into tears. We convened an emergency sprint session, me on tax law forums, her on horticultural journals, Maya on patent docket alerts. We found that Green Shelter's application was indeed published in May 2 months before our US refile. Our earlier searches hadn't picked it up, buried in the WO publications. Now, to get European protection, we needed to carve out claims that distinguished our pods by the specific AI architecture and the Halo's wavelength sequencing, which no one else published. We spent 4 furious days rewriting claims, drafting declarations. Green Shelter's pods were manual preset systems. Ours were real-time ML-based controllers. We added detailed flowcharts, showing how user feedback loops iterated nutrient recipes weekly. We cited our code repositories and our published white paper at the Innovation Summit. In a final push, I boarded a flight to the EPO in Munich, determined to argue in person. At the EPO office, I faced examiner Dr. Mueller, a stern woman with silver-rimmed glasses and an encyclopedic knowledge of plant tech. I presented our amended claims, blueprints, code snippets, handing her a tablet loaded with demos. She flipped through, eyes narrowing. So, she said in accented English, you claim real-time spectrum adjustment using a convolutional neural network trained on reflectance data. That is not disclosed in Green Shelter. Their system uses manual controls. She glanced at my notes. If I accept these claims, you will have a narrow but enforceable European patent. I nodded, voice deliberate. Exactly. It's the AI core that makes AeroBloom unique. We went through the technical details, CNN layers, training datasets, edge compute scheduling. After 45 minutes, she closed the tablet and said, I will allow these claims, formalities to follow. I exhaled, relief flooding me. Thank you. Back on home turf, we pivoted to marketing our exclusivity, protected by US and European AI, controlled aeroponic patent. Investment decks flashed our expanded IP map, and our purchase agreements bore patent markings. The first shipping containers of the pilot pods sailed west to Chicago and east to Berlin, arriving in time for crisp fall installations. At the Chicago launch on the COP rooftop, Claire and I joined Danielle Reyes and her team. As they harvested the first hydroponic basil leaves, lush, glossy, bursting with fragrance, Danielle raised a sprig to her nose. Unbelievable, she said. We did this in 5 weeks, Claire beamed. And we're only getting started. In November, we held our first press event in a converted warehouse near the Hudson River. Edison bulbs hung overhead, projecting verdant patterns reminiscent of Aerobloom's LED halos. Investors, media, and city officials gathered around a row of pods. I gave the opening remarks. 2 years ago, when Claire first sketched Aerobloom on a napkin, she dreamed of green oases in gray cities. Today, we stand on the precipice of that reality, thanks to your faith and our unshakable belief in innovation, even when the system tried to tell us otherwise. The applause was thunderous. Cameras flashed as Claire and I unveiled the European patent certificate next to our US Home Office issuance. Investors snapped up subscription slots. New York City's Department of Parks signed a letter of intent for 50 pods. Berlin's Senate of Food and Environmental Affairs inquired about a citywide pilot. The momentum was unstoppable. Afterward, as we toured the warehouse, I found Claire cradling a basil plant she'd just harvested. A soft haze of satisfaction glazed her eyes. "We did it," she whispered. "We really did." I smiled, tears glinting in my own eyes. "You did it?" That night, a small after-party at a nearby loft was underway. Strings of market lights glinted overhead, and a DJ spun mellow beats. Claire and I stood outside on the terrace, city lights stretching to the horizon. "I want to thank you," Claire said quietly, sliding an arm around me. "Your unwavering belief, your support, without you, I would have given up." I shook my head. "This was always your vision. I was just the backup system, but the best backup system a sister could ask for." She laughed softly. "From now on, you're not my backup, you're my co-founder." I raised my glass of sparkling apple cider. To Aerobloom, to sisterhood, and to surprising patent offices everywhere. She clinked glasses. To surprises. In the months that followed, Aerobloom Hydropod by Thompson and Carter LLC soared to international acclaim. Urban farms in Tokyo integrated our pods. Luxury hotels in Dubai installed rooftop gardens. NASA funded research for Martian greenhouse prototypes. Trademark applications covered our brand in 38 countries, and patent families branched across Asia, Europe, and South America. At the next Riverside Innovation Summit, exactly 1 year after Claire's fateful pitch, we returned as keynote speakers. We shared the stage once more, no longer trembling novices, but seasoned entrepreneurs. We told the story of spreadsheets turned to prototypes, of rejections turned to narrow allowances, of familial bonds stretched and reforged. We spoke of the power of IP strategy paired with tenacity, the importance of believing in your invention even when the patent office throws curveballs. The audience rose in applause that day for a different reason, not just for urban farming's future, but for two sisters who refused to let red tape or corporate politics steal their dream. And as we stood side by side, fielding questions about expansion, sustainability, and tech ethics, I knew that the real patent, the one that guaranteed our success, was the unbreakable bond between us, forged in late-night coding sessions, cooled in the winds of rejection, and catalyzed by the unwavering will to turn invention into reality. That, more than any utility patent, would keep our Aerobloom legacy alive for decades to come.